Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're diving into a really incredible story. We are analyzing Baha and Margaret Habashy's transformational journey from an absolute financial crisis all the way to long-term financial peace. And they did it using simple, passive investing strategies. So if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by managing your money or just kind of confused by all the intense jargon of the financial industry, you are in the exact right place. Let's get into it.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll quickly run through the 1999 crisis, the stewardship foundation, saving versus investing, the power of passive investing, mastering your asset allocation, and finally, how to actually take action today.
Now, this whole explainer is based on How Are You Financially, which is a guide created by the Habashys, mostly as a thinking and discussion tool. Right off the bat, you gotta know they are not selling financial advice here. They're just sharing a framework that's deeply rooted in their personal convictions of Christian stewardship. And honestly, it's a super compelling look at how just shifting your perspective on ownership can entirely alter your financial trajectory.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the 1999 crisis. The year literally everything turned upside down for them.
You know, most of us rely on three main legs for our financial security, right? Our health, our income, and our savings. Well, looking at this timeline, you can see how all three of those legs just completely gave way for Baha in a single season back in 1999. At age 58, his doctor warned him that his workaholic lifestyle made him a prime candidate for permanent disability. Then, shortly after that, he lost the high-paying career he'd had for 30 years. And the final blow? When they turned to their retirement savings for a little comfort, they discovered their trusted financial advisors have been managing their money to generate high commissions for themselves, not to protect the family. This brutal combo forced a massive ground-up rethink of how they approached money.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Stewardship Foundation. And this is all about a profound mindset shift.
Out of that crisis, the authors realized they needed to view themselves not as owners of their wealth, but as managers or stewards of what they'd been given. This realization led directly to this two-budget model. Basically, they separated their strict needs from their wants. The needs budget covered the non-negotiables: housing, food, healthcare, transit, and tithes. The wants budget was everything else: gifts, vacations, and yeah, even higher education. Drawing this hard line forced some incredibly tough conversations. I mean, they literally had to sit down with their teenage kids and explain they couldn't just automatically fund their college tuition up front. But you know what? Because of that clarity, the family adapted. Their daughter worked multiple campus jobs, and their son actually finished with funds to spare.
Now, to manage their variable income moving forward, they adopted what they playfully call the mindset of the ancient Egyptian farmer. Think about it. Long before banks or lines of credit were a thing, farmers lived each season strictly on the harvest that had already been provided from the previous year. The Habashys applied this exact concept to their wants budget. They only ever spent on their wants based on the money they'd already secured from the year before, never on what they were just hoping to earn in the future. It's a super disciplined way to basically eliminate financial anxiety.
Okay, let's move on to Section 3, saving versus investing. It is absolutely crucial to draw clear boundaries here. People use these two words interchangeably all the time, right? But they serve completely different purposes. Saving is all about short-term protection. It's low-risk, highly accessible cash. We're talking about your 3 to 6 months of living expenses safely parked in a bank account. Investing, on the other hand, is putting your money to work for the long term. You're taking calculated higher risks to get actual growth for things that are decades away, like retirement. If you mix these two concepts up, you are definitely setting yourself up for failure.
All right, Section 4, the power of passive investing. This is how you take back control.
So when it came to actually investing, they had a choice to make: active or passive. Active investing is the flashy stuff. It tries to outsmart the market. It involves a ton of frequent trading, heavily relies on forecasting, and crucially comes with really high management fees. And the data shows most active managers actually fail to beat the index long term. Passive investing, which is what the Habashys enthusiastically went with, doesn't try to beat the market at all. It just tries to match it. It's a disciplined, boring, buy-and-hold strategy that relies on broad diversification and features super low fees.
And you know what's wild? The authors even bring in legendary active stock picker Warren Buffett to back this up. Buffett literally admits that a regular person who just periodically puts money into a simple, passive index fund will probably beat the high-priced Wall Street professionals. I love that. It just completely democratizes wealth building for the rest of us.
So the engine that makes this passive strategy actually possible for everyday folks is the ETF, or exchange-traded fund. And the authors use a fantastic metaphor here. Just think of an ETF as a basket.
Instead of buying one single apple, which would be like buying one company's stock, risking everything if that one apple goes bad, you just buy a whole basket that contains hundreds of apples. If one apple bruises, it's fine. The rest of the basket carries on. It's instant, low-cost diversification that trades right there on the stock exchange.
Now, the authors are quick to stress that you cannot control what the stock market does. Nobody can. But what the slide outlines is exactly what you can control. First, your asset mix. How much of your money goes into stocks versus bonds? Second, your diversification, making sure you cover broad global markets. And third, and this is huge, your fees. Specifically the MER, or Management Expense Ratio. That's the quiet little annual fee a fund charges. If your investment grows by 6.5%, but an active manager takes a 2% fee, you're only keeping 4.5%. An ETF, though, it might only charge 0.2%. Over a few decades, that tiny little percentage difference literally compounds into tens of thousands of dollars saved.
Next up is Section 5, Mastering Asset Allocation. Honestly, this is probably the most important decision you're going to make.
Take a look at this table. It breaks down the different ingredients you have available to build your portfolio. You've got equity, which just means ownership in companies, and you've got income, which means bonds. Now look at that typical volatility column. Canadian and large U.S. equities offer you growth, but with low to medium volatility. Emerging markets offer aggressive growth, but strap in because the volatility is very high. And then bonds, down at the bottom, they basically act as your anchor. They give you low volatility, steady income, and protect your capital. By blending these together, you balance your need for growth with whatever your stomach can handle for the market's ups and downs.
And looking at this chart, you can see the actual 80-20 aggressive growth model the Habashys personally landed on. They keep 80% in equities, and notice it's heavily weighted with 40% in U.S. equities to grab a piece of that massive global GDP, 20% in Canadian equities, and 20% in international developed markets. That remaining 20%? That's held securely in Canadian bonds for income and to preserve their capital. Doing it this way ensures that if one part of the world is struggling, the others can help carry the load. It's a giant puzzle, but it works.
But hold on, before you just go and copy their exact chart, the authors drop a major warning here. Your asset allocation has to be based on your unique risk tolerance. And risk tolerance isn't just a math problem. It's deeply personal. It's defined by 4 things. Your risk capacity, meaning your age and how long until you retire. Your knowledge, because simply understanding how markets work stops you from panicking. Your experience, like have you actually lived through a market crash before? And lastly, your temperament. Some people just naturally handle uncertainty way better than others. Your portfolio absolutely has to honor your true character. Otherwise, you're going to panic and sell at the worst possible time.
Okay, we've made it to Section 6, Taking Action Today. Let's talk about how to actually build your portfolio.
The authors have distilled this whole process down into a wonderfully simple 6-step guide. First, define the broad asset categories you need based on that risk tolerance we just talked about. Second, select an index to track for those categories. Third, use online screening tools to find ETFs tracking those indices with the lowest possible MER fees. Step 4 is super important. Keep it simple. Pick just one ETF product per category. Step 5, allocate your percentages and hit buy. And step 6, review it just once a year. Seriously, if your percentages have drifted by more than 25%, sure, rebalance it. Otherwise, leave it alone. Resist the urge to tinker.
To pull the whole shebang together, you've got to write down what they call an investment philosophy statement. This is an actual physical document where you declare your approach. Are you active or passive? What exactly is your risk tolerance? What's your time horizon? And what are your target percentages? Getting this down on paper acts as an anchor when the markets get stormy, stopping fear from driving your choices. And hey, if you ever do decide to hire a financial advisor later on, this document serves as a strict mandate holding them accountable to your rules.
Ultimately, for the Habashys, all these spreadsheets and ETF decisions circle right back to their foundational belief. They view financial health not just as accumulating dollars so you can be wealthy, but as a genuine act of faithfulness. It's about the careful, deliberate management of whatever resources have been entrusted to you, whether that's a little or a lot. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought. We started this whole explainer by asking, how are you financially? But based on everything we've just uncovered, the deeper, far more important question the authors really want you to chew on is this. Beyond your bank balance, beyond your fancy ETFs and your monthly budget, how are you as a steward?